Hey Internet, today we are looking at the American CE24 and the non-American SE CE24, as if that name never confused anybody
the most confusing,
ever.
always.
So we're talking about the similarities and also the differences. And at the end of this video, we're gonna know which one is better. It's really gonna be your choice.
Yeah.
So to get started, let's talk about similarities, Mr. J-Lock. So both of these guitars have solid maple necks, which is great. They both have a satin finish on those necks. And they also have the same scarf joint, the same construction.
Yeah.
That's cool. They both have East Indian rosewood boards. They both have the typical PRS 10-inch fretboard radius. They both come with a gig bag.
That's pretty close.
Different gig bag, but it's still a gig bag.
Yeah.
They both have bolt-on construction. That is the whole point of a CE model, of course. They both have a 25-inch scale length. Again, the typical PRS thing. They both have coil splits hidden on this here tone knob.
Yep.
They both have that, which is a really cool feature on the SE CE especially, in that price point, which we'll get to in a minute. And currently they have different knobs, but we're filming this video slightly before the embargo date for this. But by the time this video comes out, the SE is actually going to have the same knobs as the American guitar.
Which I'm looking forward to.
I am looking forward to, because these are a great looking knob. Speed knobs aren't the worst, but man, a PRS just looks good with that simple little knob upgrade.
And those have a little better tactile sensation using them.
I agree. So it's actually a really surprisingly nice upgrade. So those will have the same knobs. They also have, both these guitars have a mahogany body, and both of them have a maple top, but there's a small difference, which we'll get to later. Also, probably one of the biggest similarities, because it's literally identical.
Yeah, it's hard to say there's much different.
No, it's not. It's the same part number. These bridges are exactly the same. Not, oh, they're the same design. They are literally the same.
The bridge.
The CE American version actually uses the SE bridge. The SE bridge is simply a zinc version of the mostly brass, a little bit higher end machine USA bridge design that is brilliant. PRS's bridge is really quite nice. But in order to keep the cost down on the American guitar, one of the things they do is they use that SE bridge on the US CE.
If it works, it works.
So just to confuse you with a ton of letters and nomenclature, the USA CE uses the SE CE bridge.
Oh, my brain.
You got that?
My brain hurts. That was a lot.
Okay. But that's a really cool feature, I guess, of the SE.
Yeah,
in a way,
mean, that's kind of the win.
It's almost like a win there. But yeah, otherwise, we're same on a lot of stuff. The control layout, a bunch of things like that. That's basically where the similarities end. From there, let's talk about the differences. The first and the most glaring being the price. The SE CE, made in Indonesia, by the way, in PRS's own factory. It's I should say a factory built for PRS in Indonesia. So only PRSs are built there. So it's a very good, very high quality factory.
They're not making random other
No, they're not making
objects.
Fenders, they're not making Epiphones, they're not making anything, they're not making Squires, they're just making PRSs, which is a big win, by the way. This guitar is $699 for the SE CE.
That's in my camp. I love that.
It's a very nice number. The US guitar is exactly $2,000 more, $2,699. Okay, big difference. And made in America. That's the first and foremost, big differences. From there, we're going to talk about the neck first. And we were having some fun with this off camera while we were prepping for this video. Because we wanted to figure out exactly how to explain this to you. There is one spec that is different on the neck between these two. The US guitar has a pattern thin neck. The SE has what we call a wide thin neck. Of course, my biggest question immediately was, what's the difference? It's 1/64 of an inch thinner on the SE is a little bit thinner. So we did some converting and some measuring. Do you have that measuring?
Yes.
You
164th. If you can see this on camera, I'll be amazed.
164th is the smallest small hatches right there that you can barely see.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to see it on camera. So we did a little bit of research. If you've ever used a thin pick, it's 0.4 millimeters, like the thinnest pick you can get from Dunlop.
Ones, yeah.
That is approximately 1/64th of an inch. So it is like, yeah, it's like almost nothing when it comes to the thickness difference.
Yeah.
But that is a slight bit thinner.
That is what it is. You know?
Can you feel it? I don't know. We'll find out in a second when we start playing them. Further on differences, the pickups in the SE are the 8515S. And in the US guitar, these are proper US pickups, just like in the core guitars, which is actually a huge selling point
kind of
for the CE24.
Yeah.
They just updated them in the S2s as well, so it's not quite as dramatic now. But that's a huge selling point because these pickups are great. The 8515S, the story is they're the same spec, they're the same, windings on the machine. They just make them over there in Indonesia.
A little cheaper.
I mean, hey, less, labor's cheaper, etc.
Yeah.
Do they sound different? We'll find that out in just a minute. Hardware, besides the bridge, obviously being the difference in the hardware is mostly the strap buttons, which are slightly different. Is that really a big deal? And the locking tuners, most importantly. The US guitar has those nice locking tuners right from the factory. They are the sealed back locking tuners. The the SE.
Yeah, let's just call it the SE.
Let's
just make our life easy.
The SE has a sealed back tuner, but it's not a locking tuner. Now you can upgrade those with the SE tuners straight from PRS. We have them in stock as well.
Yep.
So if that's something you want to do straight out the gate, we can do that for you. So it's not the biggest difference, but it would be an upgrade path. One of few upgrade paths that probably are there really. Strings, for whatever reason, the SE has 9s. And the US guitar has 10s from the factory. I don't know.
We put 10s. There's 10s on both, so
yeah,
we broke the rules.
That is,
we matched them.
that's the deal. But that's how it comes from the factory, and a slightly thinner neck. So okay. The body, okay. So the tops I alluded to earlier. Although these both have flame maple tops, this one actually is. I should say they both have maple tops. This guitar has a maple top. But it's not a flame maple top all the way through. It's simply a veneer on top of the maple. The reason why PRS does that is actually pretty brilliant. A guitar that just has a veneer on the top of it can look cheap.
Like
it kind of is
cheesy almost sometimes.
Right, because you're just taking this little tiny veneer.
Is that thicker than the guitar pick?
That's actually a great question. It's probably it's thinner for sure. A veneer is extremely thin.
Yeah.
And so when they veneer the front of it, like Ibanez will do this a lot on some of their less expensive guitars, is they just throw this veneer on without any top wood. And the maple on the top of a guitar, on top of that mahogany, is there for tonal reasons, not just for being pretty, right? That's how a Les Paul was built. That's how all these things were built that are legendary guitars. So we still have a maple top, but they put a veneer on it in order to make that maple look nice. Whereas with the US built CE, that maple top is truly, it's not that thick, but it's truly a full, proper maple top. It is a little bit thinner than its core counterpart. That's a whole different discussion, but it is a proper top, if that's super important to you. So the body shape on the SE is a smidge different, and this is actually combined with another really major difference, actually, which is the neck heel. The heel on the US guitar is more like your traditional PRS style. Like it kind of looks like the set guitar's neck heel, where it sets straight into the body. The SE is different. The heel, the body wood comes out and B-roll. Well, you'll see it kind of engulfs the heel of the neck. But what that means is that it changes the shape of the body.
Right.
Just slightly. There's a little bit of this extra cut in here in the upper horn area that differs from the US guitar. I will say, me personally, points to the US guitar on this one. I like that body shape just a little.
Visual looks.
Just visually looks a little bit better. Now, the heel shape change on the SE should theoretically give you a little bit better access
Yeah.
on the neck. Now, when we both play these guitars, we see a negligible difference.
A 1/64th of an inch difference?
Well, that's
I know. Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a huge difference. Somebody might really think there's a difference. I couldn't really
It's
see.
kind of negligible to me. I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
not a big thing for me. But most importantly, I believe is actually that body shape change. It does look a bit different. The last few points here, the finish on the USA guitar is very nice. This is the new PRS finish process, which uses nitro involved in it, and it's a beautiful finish, thin and hard, and it sounds good and all this different stuff. It's really great with that nitro type of finish. I'm going to call it that for simplicity's sake. The SE is your more traditional poly type of finish where you experience on most guitars with a modern polymer-based finish. The inlay is also different as well, and this I thought was kind of an interesting point.
Yes, very, very surprising, kind of.
Sort of surprising. On the US guitar, the inlay is this off-white kind of ivory color plastic. Very flat, very simple. The SE actually uses it's like an epoxy resin type of thing that looks like mother of pearl. It's not mother of pearl, but it kind of looks like it. I gotta be honest.
It does a, yeah, I was gonna say it does a good job.
It looks good. I kind of like that.
It does a good job.
Yeah. So it's sort of interesting. Lastly, I thought this was kind of neat. Our videographer Tom loves this. The black overlay on the headstock.
Honestly,
of the
thank
CE.
you guys, PRS. That's what we've been waiting for.
I agree. It does look a lot
It just
better.
matches everything so nicely.
I think it looks really
Not that I like that as well, but for like this guitar,
on the right color, the natural headstock can look great. But I agree with you. That black
It's a nice little finisher.
is pretty cool. So it's interesting. We have some big points for the US guitar. We also have some big points for the SE. Honestly, it's formidable, at least in spec. But that doesn't matter if it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
So, J-Lock, let's put these guitars to the test and see who comes out on top. Let's start with the SE.
let's do it.
It sounds good.
Sounds great.
Can you do one thing for me? Can you play with the coil taps?
Yeah, let's try that.
Just briefly.
So here's this is like a neck tap, right?
I will say that all PRSs sound good with their pickups tapped.
You know, and they're nicely actually balanced, because sometimes you'll get that issue with, and we won't go into this coil split versus coil tapped and that.
Yeah, I'm probably saying it wrong. Flame me in the comments.
But they're really good at matching the actual output within reason. Like you're not gonna like need to always hit a boost.
But the tone actually, I agree with you, and the tone actually like sounds good.
It feels single coil.
Sometimes, it does. And it's not just the pickups. There's a bunch of things that go in with the scale length and stuff like that. But this guitar is no different. It sounds great when with the coils split. And also, I think CEs really lend into that because, of course, you have a bolt-on neck versus a set neck, right? So when you're tapped, it's going to sound more like the bolt-on guitars, the F-shaped objects that you're trying to emulate with that coil split. So sounded really good.
They get used. I have a PRS that I play, and sometimes you get guitars that have the coil taps just because you can put them in, and you never touch it. You're like, oh, it's there. Okay, haven't turned on, but like it's actually like, all right, I'll actually put this to use.
Yeah,
which is good. If you're gonna have it, use it. Like
I agree, especially on the CE. That's a great feature.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not going to ask you too much about it yet because I want to hear.
Let's do the other
the US guitar, and we'll see how we battle it out. Give us the taps.
Taps.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Feels good.
I have to just ask straight off the bat, which guitar do you like playing better? Which one just felt more right?
It's like it's a weird, I know why you're asking. It's a double-sided coin. I would say, weirdly, I mean, this felt better, right? Like out the box kind of sensation. I kind of like this coil splits on that one.
I was taking notes here. Like, I literally wrote CE tap better.
And these are, and don't, you guys, they're the same height. Obviously, they're slightly different pickups, but they're all matched as far as spec. PRS's spec.
I straight out the gate, I will say, I totally agree with you. I liked the split sound.
They sounded clearer.
Better on here. It sounded more like a Strat to me. Whereas this sounded more like it was trying to be a Strat.
Weird,
whereas that sounded like a Strat. I was really impressed with that tap sound. But I will also say, I think the humbucker sound sounded better on this.
Yeah.
This was what I wrote down. Balanced, smoother, fuller, sweeter.
It felt more consistent throughout. Like sometimes with certain guitars, you'll feel like you have to like, especially when it comes to the high strings, you kind of got to like help it out. This kind of felt like a little more, it just kind of let it sing.
This guitar definitely sang for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm asking you which one you liked better because I saw how you were smiling after you played this guitar.
Oh yeah, this thing feels great.
And you were in the zone, which
Yeah,
was great.
it
And I
feels
also
great.
noticed you played a little bit longer too. When I asked you to do the tips, you were like, yeah,
We'll
keep
do
going
one more
a little bit. I'll
round.
just
Let's
play
do
a
one
little longer.
more blues round.
So 1, 4, 5.
Yeah,
1, 4, 5.
exactly.
So I thought that was really interesting because
Mhm.
something we use in Ish Guitars when we're working with a customer is when we put a guitar in your hands, we try to put a certain amount of guitars in your hands that we already know that is going to be something you like based
Like,
on
what do you play?
what we already ask you and what we kind of
Right.
interview you about before we put guitars in your hands. And one of the key factors there is, does that person, when they play that guitar, play it longer,
Mhm.
play something new, right? Because
Or
everyone
play
has,
better.
or, yeah,
which
or
is part of
play
that.
better. And when they stop playing it, do they have a smile on their face?
Yeah.
That's a big key of it too. Because you'd be like, yeah, this one's good. Yeah, I like that. And then there's one they play, and you just tell on their
They'll
face.
use their body language.
You can literally just watch that. And I noticed that you did that with this, which I thought was very, very interesting. Doesn't necessarily mean it's better for everybody, but I think that's a very interesting point to talk about. What were your other thoughts about, we didn't talk much about this yet, of course, because we wanted to hear both back to back. What are your other thoughts on the SE overall?
As far as purely playing it?
Playability and sound.
Sound, they're great. I feel like, we're not using super gain. I would be curious, in a heavier gain situation to hear how those humbuckers actually thicken up. Like, I know these have that in them.
Maybe that'll be the next version of this video.
Yeah. And you could do 9 million videos about every setting, and this is the general
This one we play arpeggios.
Yes, right. The single coil or the coil tap sound on that, that was a winner. Like, there was a winner for me.
But overall playability.
Playability is great. That one felt like some of the not that the fretwork's bad by any means, but this felt like there was way more just attention to it. Like, to a certain degree, if you go much slower, you'll start tentatively maybe catching a little spot here or there, or maybe it just needs like even the lightest dressing on the frets, which, for any guitar you buy online, you kind of need your stuff at least looked at by someone. So
it should be mentioned, J-Lock is our guitar tech manager and a really just wonderful luthier overall. And you were telling me before the video, you had to do a couple little tweaks on this?
Yeah.
So
the one thing actually was, usually we'll do the full run through to make sure everything seems cool, check frets, check the nut height, all that, right? That one did need like a tiny little, didn't take more than 2 minutes, but it needed a couple little spots just checked for a couple strings that didn't seem...
On the nut?
On the nut, yeah. So some of that's the overseas tentative
and that's something
oversight.
very interesting I want to mention is that there's a bunch of...
or pre-cut nuts, they just drop. And
yeah, there's a bunch of animosity about SE nuts. There's this whole like internet thing about it, which everyone I'm sure knows. I don't think that they're bad at all.
No.
I just think they need a little bit of work. Just like you're saying.
And honestly,
from our experience selling like thousands of them,
yeah,
they just need a little bit of attention, and then that's pretty much it.
And stuff moves, and
But again, that's like, you get those Squires that are so cool and so cool looking, those cool additions they do. Those are great instruments, but you have to put some work into them. You buy them brand new, and you know you're going to go spend a couple $100, or you got to do it yourself and be good to kind of set it up, maybe mess with the frets a little bit, mess with the nut to get it good. And to me, I see this kind of similarly like that. I mean, the pickups are really good. I think there's something to be desired in the humbucker maybe sounds, but the tap sound, especially if you want to play tapped a lot, just buy one of these. Jeez, leave it alone. The bridge is great. I wouldn't even mess with the bridge. Could you go to a USA bridge? Could you upgrade it? Sure, but like, if it's good enough for this guitar,
the same bridge. We didn't even. I didn't need to pull the trem out and.
But hey, do a little bit of mess with the nut a little bit, clean some frets up a little bit, maybe really smooth it out. Get the right set of strings on it for the right gauge for what you're playing in order to how you have your tuning. And make it your guitar and spend some time and some investment in that. I think you end up with a really, really nice guitar for not a lot of money, but it does seem like
the out-the-box sensation.
The out-of-box quality you can't can't argue with.
And that's not surprising usually.
It's $2,000 more. Yeah, $2,000 full. That's a lot more money. You better get some
attention to detail for that.
Yeah, it's a lot more money. My big question to you is, I have two questions. Is this guitar $2,000 more quality than this?
The
I shouldn't say
worst
quality.
question-
$2,000. $2,000.
Worst question I ever
Let me
heard.
rephrase that. Is it $2,000 better?
So if you're gonna get it and not want to deal with any headache, and have something that we'll say arguably looks better top wise, obviously right now that you have the knobs which are a little more comfortable. The fretwork is the big thing as a tech for me. Like obviously sometimes my lens is like, all right, you just clean it up and okay. But if you live in the middle of nowhere and you have to drive an hour and then it's like 100% spend the money on this.
Yeah.
Now the flip side of that is I'm a cheap boy, or I should say,
we'll get to that in a second. Here's the real question for Jay Locke is, which do you buy?
Do I buy?
Which one?
I buy that one. But that's because I'll tell you my reasons is, if I'm out playing a gig and God forbid it gets stolen or it gets, something happens to it, gets knocked over on a stand, I can survive. I just play a lot out where I can survive with rebuying another $699 guitar.
Yeah.
I would be more scared if something happened to this. And maybe this is more for my house, studio, all the intricate stuff. Like that to me sells it and it looks better. I'll be honest, I'm not the best at this because I can take a black satin guitar and I'm cool.
I'm surprised how much you like this guitar. I really am. If you've ever watched some of our other videos,
I'm a
Jay,
hater. I'm a hater.
Usually Jay's like, nah, you don't need this crap.
I'm
Just
a
buy this
hater.
thing and be done with it. So I'm actually really quite surprised.
But the tuners feel so much better. Just
Tuner upgrade would be a big upgrade on this guitar for
and
sure.
if you're a bar guy and you're going in, that's a thing to keep in mind, that if you have the locking tuners just feel a little bit more consistent, that if you're going ham on the bar, you have to keep that in mind. Same thing with regards to the net. If it's pinching it at all or anything weird.
Absolutely.
You know.
So you would buy this one. You want to ask me which one I would buy?
Which one would you buy? And why?
I'd buy that one.
Really? Why?
Yes.
What's your reason?
Because by the time I go to this guitar, I put different pickups in it. I don't think you need to do a nut, but I'm not going to do my own work.
But that'd be almost in a setup, right?
But by the time I spend a couple $100 on some good, good fret cleanup,
it's gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's gone. I got to buy tuners. I got to have those installed. Me, I'm a nerd for really good, high quality electronics and wiring.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, actually, we didn't really talk about that's a difference.
Underneath the hood.
Underneath the hood, the pots that are in this, the potentiometers, are a lot nicer. Yep. They're very high quality parts. These are still very high quality. They're just not, they're not going to spend as much money on them. So like by the time I go in, I change that, I change this, I pay someone to do it. I'm going to have, depending on what pickups I buy, if I were to upgrade the pickups, but again, I don't think you need to.
No.
I really don't think you need to.
Guitar players
then
love
now I'm going to have a good
pickups,
I'm going to have a good amount of money into this. I can just buy this brand new with a warranty, have everything I want.
No headache.
I can finance it, I can just throw it on 0% or something and pay monthly for it and just be done, right? And just get that. Like when I think PRS, I think just that out of the box perfection. And I don't think this isn't out of the box perfection. It's just $699 is not an expensive guitar these days. Like
which is crazy.
15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I started playing, it was like $300. It was like an okay cheap guitar.
Yeah, cheap.
And now an okay cheap guitar is $699. And this is as far as okay cheap guitars go, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed. But I went through when I was a kid having no money, buying all those cheap guitars and buying the crap out of them, and half the time I'd ruin them because I'd do something stupid. And now, just in my wise old age of 31,
right.
I now have come to appreciate some of those higher end pieces of gear, not just with guitars, with cameras, with car parts, with stuff like that. Just that whole buy it once thing. I'm kind of one of those people. But also, I will say I could make a great case for buying this guitar.
Yeah. Well,
a really great case.
If you're a 15-year-old kid and you go mow a bunch of lawns, you can afford that.
And you can also upgrade it over time.
Yes.
As you get the money, as you get some new parts. So I'm even torn on this one because I really like this guitar a lot.
But the thing
I really
is,
like it a lot.
They both do exactly what they do in a different form for the price point. And it's two different targets, kind of.
So
right? Like.
So here's our horribly non-helpful video. If you want the best CE, buy both. And on that note, we're going to end. See you guys.